Good morning. It's Tuesday, May 7th, and before we begin, we will hear the invocation from Pastor Justin Avery at Draper Park Christian Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and the Oklahoma Pledge by Piper Langerman from Girl Scout Troop 3309. If you'll please stand as you're able.
Let us pray. Father, we are thankful for the day. Thankful for the breath in our lungs, for the sun that rises again, to do your will, to live in your creation. And I just pray, Father, for the leaders here of this great city, that you would fill them with all wisdom and devotion as they go about the business of seeing to the citizens in this great land in which we live. And Father, we do pray for those affected by last night's storms, not only in our city, but across our state, Father. And as you did in your life, in your death and resurrection, Lord Jesus, teach us what it means to be good neighbors. I pray all of this in your name. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of Oklahoma. Its symbols of peace unites all people.
Okay, we'll call to order the City Council meeting for May 7th, 2024. From the Office of the Mayor, before I come down front, item A is resolution for Major Robert Coleman. It's a City of Oklahoma City Safety Star of the Quarter. We need to receive a motion to strike that. We are going to bring it back. Major Coleman is experienced a death in the family. He's unable to join us this morning, so we'll please keep his family and friends in our thoughts and our prayers. But we want to recognize him, but we will bring it back at a future meeting when he is available. So if I could get a motion on the floor.
Just motion to defer?
We're going to strike for now.
Strike,
We'll just
okay.
bring it back when he's available.
Thank you.
Passes unanimously. Now I will grab the microphone and move down front for item B. Ms. Sherry, if you'll join us up here. The item B is recognizing Ms. Sherry Dew, and I will ask the city clerk to read the proclamation or resolution.
Whereas Sherry Dew has been named Teacher of the Month for May 2024 by the Oklahoma City Public Schools Foundation and Rotary Club of Oklahoma City. And whereas Sherry serves as a social studies teacher at Southeast High School who exemplifies leading with empathy and develops meaningful relationships with her students. And whereas Sherry provides a safe, welcoming, and motivational classroom environment where her students can be creative and thrive. And whereas Sherry embraces innovative ways for students to express themselves and gives them the education and opportunities they need to prepare for the future. And whereas Sherry upholds high standards for herself as a professional and supports fellow teachers on their path to success. And whereas Sherry leads by example by taking the initiative to organize service projects and strengthen the relationships between schools and the community. And whereas Sherry believes in the potential of all students and values the lessons she learns from them. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the City of Oklahoma City that they do hereby recognize and commend Sherry Dew on her selection as May 2024 Teacher of the Month by the Oklahoma City Public Schools Foundation and Rotary Club of Oklahoma City.
So this is a resolution, so we do need to pass this. I vote aye. Passes unanimously. Ms. Sherry, would you like to say a few words about your experience in Oklahoma City Public Schools and this recognition?
Sure. I want to thank the City Council for this honor. It's a great thing to be recognized for being a teacher, especially these days. I love teaching. I love my students. I've been doing it for almost 20 years, and there's nothing else I would rather do, even with maybe sometimes the climate that we have. But I enjoy it just as much as today as I ever have.
Thank you very much. We'll give Ms. Sherry a round of applause, please. All right, next up, item 4, items from council. There are no items from council today. Item 5, city manager reports. Mr. City Manager?
Yes, thank you. We have several reports that are on today. The first report is our interim financial report, just an update. It's really a budgetary report, but an update on how we're doing. Our focus, it covers all of our different cash funds that we have, but our focus is the general fund, which is our primary operating fund. And you'll see there that we're about $4.5 million below on our revenues, but our expenditures are about $16 million below their projections. So still, overall, we're doing well. A lot of our expenditure, being below expenditure, is vacancies that we've had, but we've also been a little bit behind on our expenditures in our services area. So overall, the financial picture is good, even though our revenues are down a little bit. The largest area that we're down on the revenues is with franchise fees. We'll continue monitoring that, but we should be doing well through the end of the fiscal year. Next, we have the hotel tax. And with the hotel tax, it's about 6.6% above. This is through the third quarter through March, 6.6% above last year, so still doing well with our hotel tax. And then we have the sales and use tax report. You know, sales tax is our largest source of revenue for our operations. And we had 3.2% growth in the month of April for sales tax. The month before, we were about 4.5% down. So it's something we've got to monitor closely. We do have preliminary report on May, and the sales tax in May is back down again about 3%, or about 2.5%. And so going to the end of the year, we saw in context with our interim financial report, it's still doing well because expenditures are below the targets right now. But overall, with sales and use tax, sales tax is about 1.8% growth. And through April, we're about $835,000 above target on sales tax. So with that, I'd be glad to take any questions or we get any information and follow up if you need that. And that's all that I have.
Seeing no questions, we'll move on to item 6, Journal of Council Proceedings. We can take both items as one motion. And the item passes. Excuse me. Item number 7, request for uncontested continuances. Item number 11F has already been requested to be deferred until June 4th, 24. Mr. City Manager, you have other items.
We have a couple of other items, starting on page 17, item 11AB1. Both of these items will be stricken from the agenda. Item A is 601 West Hill Street. The owner has secured. Item B, 912 West I-240 Service Road. The owner has secured. And then continuing on page 17, item 11 AC1, abandoned buildings. Both of these are stricken from the agenda for the same reason. It's the same items. Item A, 601 West Hill Street, and item B, 912 West I-240 Service Road. That's all the items that I have.
Thank you. Moving on to item 8, revocable permits and events. Item A, a revocable permit with the American Heart Association for the Oklahoma City Heart Walk, May 31st through June 1st in Bicentennial Park. Ward 6.
Ward 6 is not here today, so she did ask me to move her zoning cases, so I'd be more than happy to move her other cases or involvements as well.
Perfect. We did have somebody sign up to speak. Kimberly Stevenson. Love the red dress. Good job. Yes.
Good morning. This is the 100th year of the American Heart Association, and we're celebrating that by advocating for more heart health education and stroke awareness. And we are doing our annual walk on June 1st of this year.
And what time is the walk?
We will be setting up the day before on Friday the 31st, and we should be opening up our tents at 8 a.m. and our walk will actually begin at 9:15 a.m.
All right. With that, I know this is an important event for all of us as we support heart health, so I will move for approval.
Thank you.
Passes unanimously. Item B is a revocable permit with the Bodies Race Company for the hometown half, June 8th, North Oklahoma River Trail, Wheeler Park. Councilwoman Nice.
I wanted to hear more about that, but unfortunately we won't, but I will move for approval.
Passes unanimously. Item C, a revocable permit, no, yeah, okay. Look, I thought I was reading the wrong one. With the Bodies Race Company for the Summer Sizzler, July 27th.
This is why I wanted to hear more about it, because it's continued in July, so I will move.
Oh.
We have someone.
Yes, so I'm Morgan Langford with Parks. I can maybe answer some questions you have. I've been working with them for that permit. So Bodies Race Company has been doing smaller events with us throughout the years. They've been with us about 2 years now, and they've finally grown to the point where they're a revocable permit. So they're getting more and more people, and every month they do a run. So sometimes it's out at Lake Draper, sometimes it's on the river trail, sometimes it's out at Lake Hefner. But I believe they're expecting about 700 people for both of these events this summer. Do you have any specific questions on them?
So it's physically bodies racing.
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Well, this sounds exciting, so I will move for approval. Thank you.
And that passes unanimously. Item D, revocable permit with Red Coyote Running and Fitness for the Red Coyote Half Marathon, November 10th. We do have one person signed up to speak. Councilwoman Nice, would you like me to, Mr. Osland?
Yeah, Osland.
Osland.
Good morning, Madam Vice Mayor and members of council. This is the 4th year for the Red Coyote Half Marathon. The 2nd year we will be hosting it from Scissortail Park. It is a culmination of our fall half marathon training programs and benefits a Course for Change program, which helps mentor disadvantaged youth through the half marathon process and helps them achieve a lifelong relationship with running. We're very excited to be involved in it again and invite all of you guys to join us.
Well, it sounds like we're gonna have a lot of people in these streets running the rest of the year, so that should be exciting. Get your shoes ready. I will move for approval.
Passes unanimously. And Mr. Osland is here for item E also, the revocable permit for Red Coyote Running and Fitness for the Red Coyote Love Run 5K and 10K for June 22nd. Mr. Osland?
Thank you guys so much. Once again, this is our June 5K, 10K culmination training program. This will be the 6th year, I think, for the event and about the 4th year that we have had it from the social capital side of the Scissortail Park. We run down Walker, down to the River Trail. This also benefits Sisu Youth Services here in Oklahoma City area and has been a great event for us as we get more and more people into the running community. Once again, it's been a lot of fun each year we've had it in cooperation with Social Capital, and we look forward to seeing you guys again this year.
All right, with this one, I will move for approval as well.
Thank you guys very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. It passes unanimously. Item F, revocable right-of-way use permit with the Paseo Artists Association to build the Paseo Arts Festival, to hold the Paseo Arts Festival May 25th through the 27th. Amanda Bleakley signed up to
Yes,
speak.
good morning.
Good morning.
Happy to be here. I'm Amanda Bleakley. I'm the Executive Director of the Paseo Arts Association. And my address is 3024 Paseo. I am really excited to be here today to present our revocable permit to you all for the 47th Annual Paseo Art Festival, which is May 25th, 26th, and 27th. Colin Rosebrick is here to tell you a little bit about the festival.
Well, this year we'll be hosting about 90 or 90 plus artists, national juried artists from all over the country. We'll have some 50 musical acts on 2 stages. We have food trucks, and it's all free to the public. And one important thing is we'll have a free shuttle, free parking at 36 and Walker at the parking lot there, and a free shuttle that goes back and forth from the festival, free for the public, and we're excited to have it started.
Also, just a reminder, we have a street ribbon cutting this Friday at 11 o'clock. You all are all invited, and we're really excited to celebrate the near completion of the streetscape that you all approved through Better Streets and other initiatives. So please join us. We're going to have some cake and snacks and some bubbly and a lot of people out to celebrate what's been a year-long process. So anyway, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Ward 2.
Yes. First, just thank you all, just as a public thanking from this horseshoe to everyone involved on your board, to the merchant, to the artist, for your patience during this last year and your coordination with all of the city staff involved in that streetscape. That was really impressive work patience is a virtue, and that's what I really came to understand this last year. So, and I'm glad you were able to invite everyone. And again, that's 11 a.m. this Friday. And so with that, I would move for approval.
Passes unanimously, and we have related item G, revocable right-of-way use permit.
That's not us.
Oh, it's not you guys.
Thank you.
I apologize. Thank you. So item G is the revocable right-of-way use permit with the Paseo Market Festival to hold Paseo Market Festival May 25th through the 27th.
Yes, good morning, City Council and Vice Mayor Peck. I am Robert Lee Clark, CPA of Sulphur, Oklahoma, and I've been hosting the Paseo Market Festival since 2018. We're the other festival that takes place this Memorial Day weekend. We would be the Garland Festival to their Dallas Festival, for example. So we also have around 80 vendors and food trucks and so forth, and we're asking for your approval for our permit. We're going to close 28th Street and have food vendors in the street and so forth. So we believe our festival accounts for approximately $500,000 in sales and the related sales tax. So I'm here today just to ask for your approval for our revocable permit.
Thank you. Ward 2?
Yes. How long y'all been doing this festival?
I've been hosting it since 2018.
Since 2018. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to look a little bit more into that history over the next year because I'm trying to figure out, I want to make sure, I just want to make sure that these two festivals are happening in a way that really works for that area. I'll just leave it at that for now. So I'll just move for approval.
Passes unanimously. Thank you.
And Councilman, if I can answer any questions for you, please feel free to contact me.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, we'll recess the council meeting and convene as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority. Item A, hold on. Okay, sorry about that. Executive session has not been requested by staff on G2. We can take a motion to...
I would actually request that. The only reason I do request that is because the nature of, in the history of this particular case, I think it is important to understand what is happening and what has happened in comparison to this gentleman that was acquitted and now seeking some type of support, and we could have had this before, but I've never seen this, so I would like to go into executive session to understand that.
All right, so we'll take a vote on item G2 to move into executive session. The item fails 4-3.
And I'd like to vote separately.
Okay, we'll vote now then on item G1. Passes 5-2. We'll now move on to take the remaining items under one motion. And that passes, and we'll adjourn OCMFA and convene as Oklahoma City Public Property Authority, where we can take items A and B with one motion. And that passes. We'll adjourn OCPPA and reconvene into the council meeting where we start back with item 9 on the consent docket. If there are any items that council members wish to discuss or call out for a vote on, if you'll please let me know at this time. And go slow. I'm new here.
I do have a question. Item BD, just some information about the selective demolition. I hadn't been aware of that.
Any other items?
Just to kind of clarify on that, because it did come up in the maps for board. Never mind.
Sorry, I was running a little late there. David Todd, Maps Program Manager. So item BD is what we call selective demolition. It's for interior demolition, non-structural walls. It's to clear out things in the building so that the architect can make sure what the structural system is, and it also gives us a bit of a jump on construction, so we don't have to wait for a general contractor to come in there and do that demolition. We know it's going to happen, so it, like I said, it gives us a little head start on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that was the only item we had, so we can move the consent docket forward with a motion. And that passes unanimously. Item 10, the concurrent docket, where we can move items A through N. Yeah, A through N with one motion. And that passes unanimously. Item 11, items requiring separate votes. Item 11A is an ordinance on final hearing requesting emergency recommended for approval on PC 10915, rezoning 7601 North Central Avenue, Ward 7.
Yes, the purpose of this application is to allow light industrial development. Unfortunately, I'm unable to ask questions because I don't see anyone that's, okay, please come forward.
Hello, Jessica Bloy with Johnson & Associates representing the applicant, 1 East Sheridan Avenue. I am happy to answer any questions. This rezone application before you is to permit a straight I-1 rezone. It was unanimously recommended for approval at Planning Commission. It will be in line with the other commercial and industrial rezones that are developed in the area. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you for that. I will go ahead and move for approval of this application.
Thank you.
That passes unanimously. Item 11B is ordinance on final hearing requesting emergency recommended for approval, PC 10922, rezoning 1512 South Byers Avenue, Ward 7.
Thank you. This purpose of this request is to bring an existing non-conforming duplex into zoning conformance. So I'm assuming that we need to get this correct on the books. So I will move for approval of this application.
Passes unanimously. Item 11C, ordinance on final hearing, PC 10923, rezoning 1401 Northeast 44th Street, Ward 7.
Yes, is the applicant here? Anyone representing the applicant for this application? Okay. I don't have a problem. I do want to actually defer it just a couple weeks because I'm looking at this and I see R1 in comparison to the R2 that we are requesting. So I just want to look at that and come back in a couple of weeks, please.
All right, so the motion on the floor is to defer to May 21st.
Thank you.
Passes unanimously. Item 11D, ordinance on final hearing, PC 10924, rezoning 1025 Southeast 15th Street, Ward 7.
As you can see, it's the Ward 7 show today.
It is.
It's the Ward 7 show. So the purpose of this request is to allow commercial development, and the existing area is considered to be R1, and surrounding area is I1 and I2. So it, in my opinion, looks compatible with the area. So I will move for approval.
Passes unanimously. Item 11E, ordinance on final hearing, PC 10925, rezoning 9500 West Memorial Road, Ward 1.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Is the applicant here?
Good morning, Steve Rollins, Arc Engineering Consultants, 135 Deer Creek Road in Edmond, representing the applicant.
Just a little curious as to why R2 in this area.
There were several other R2 developments that have been approved in the area, so we felt like it was a good fit. It also just brings an additional affordable housing to the area, a little more different product for affordable housing.
Can you show me or tell me where the other R2? I'm not seeing any R2 in the area.
To the north and to the west, around, what is the next mile over? I don't recall the street. I
PUD
apologize.
1742, which is R1, which is up in that northwest corner. And you're saying further west?
Yes, sir.
Is?
Yes.
If you don't mind, I'd like to talk with you a little bit more about this. I'm going to move for a deferral for just 2 weeks so that you and I can have a time to sit down and kind of talk and go over it.
Okay.
Okay. Motion on the floor is to defer to May 21st.
Yes, please.
Passes unanimously. Item 11F was previously requested deferral to June 4th. Item 11G is ordinance on final hearing, SPUD 1588, rezoning 3208 North Indiana Avenue, Ward 2.
Yes, thanks, Vice Mayor. Is anyone representing the applicant here? No, I didn't think so. So actually, Vice Mayor, item G and H, the same applicant. Is anyone signed up to speak with H or anyone representing H? I don't think so,
No one has signed up to speak.
I'd like to defer each of these, G and H, just to make sure, because especially on H, there were some protests, and I just want to make sure everything was good. So we'll start with item G, just 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Please.
All right. So motion on the floor for item G is deferral to May 21st.
Yes, thank you.
That passes unanimously. And then item H, you'd like to do the same, correct?
Yes, please, Vice
Deferral
Mayor.
to May 21st.
Thank you.
Passes unanimously. Moving on to item 11I, ordinance on final hearing, SPUD 1604, rezoning 5421 South May Avenue from R1 to the SPUD. It's a Ward 6 case. Councilwoman Nice?
Yes, it was requested by Councilwoman Hammond to move all of her cases forward, and this is to allow residential and a barbershop salon in an existing residential structure, so I will move for approval.
Passes unanimously. Item 11J, ordinance on final hearing for SPUD 1605, rezoning 3305 Northwest 192nd Street, Ward 8.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This came before Planning Commission on March 14th and was approved. There are no protests. The purpose is for veterinary services, animal grooming, food and beverage retail sales. At this time, I'd move for the approval.
Passes unanimously. Item 11K, ordinance on final hearing, recommended for approval, SPUD 1606, rezoning 1625 North Marion Avenue from R1 Single Family Residential. Councilwoman Nice.
Yes, ma'am. Has anyone signed up to speak?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you. The purpose of this application is to allow multiple residential dwellings and some live-work units with limited commercial uses, and I will move for approval.
And that passes unanimously. 11L, ordinance on final hearing, SPUD, recommended for approval, SPUD 1608, rezoning 2769 Northwest 21st Street, Ward 6, for Councilwoman Nice.
Yes, and again, no one has signed up to speak for this. Okay.
No.
The purpose of this application is to allow multiple residential dwellings, and I will move for approval.
And that item I got ahead of myself. Passes unanimously. Item M is an ordinance on final hearing, recommended for approval. It's a special permit to operate use unit 8250, the truck driving school at 701 North Sarah Road. This is my ward. It is customary for the Vice Mayor to not move the motion forward, so I've asked Councilmember Carter to move my item.
Anyone sign up to speak? Then
No,
I'd
sir.
move for approval.
Thank you. That item passes unanimously. All right, item N, there'll be a separate vote, ordinance on final hearing, item 1, related to utilities amending Chapter 55 of the Oklahoma City Municipal Code. Mr. City Manager, is somebody going to talk to us about that?
On So we had a presentation on this one previously, right? And this one actually has the ordinance, but we also have receiving the private development water and wastewater design requirements. So we don't have any further presentation on this one, but we do have both items that need to be approved today.
Separately, though?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we'll take item N1 first.
I submitted all my grades yesterday. I'm all done. Where are you going this year? My apartment. Yeah. Got a book to finish revising.
Passes unanimously. Now we'll take item N2, get a motion to receive.
Do you remember the Sirloin Stockade murders that happened? It's that. A literary horror, historical fiction version of that.
The item passes unanimously. Moving on to item O, ordinance number 27610. Mr.
Yes.
City Manager.
Yes, there's an item, this item this morning, Zach Craig is here with us, Executive Director from the Commission and Visitors Bureau, and Christy Gillenwater, the President of the Chamber, the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber, and I appreciate their partnership in this. This item is to call for an election for, it's an introduction of the ordinance that will ultimately call for an election for an increase in the hotel motel tax. We haven't had an increase in the hotel tax in about 20 years. And actually, the largest portion of this increase, Zach will talk about it and give you a little bit of an update, but the largest portion of this increase is really focused towards marketing and promotion of convention and tourism, and then also for our sponsorship funds. There's two additional areas that working with stakeholders, they've agreed to add into this, and then we've got a portion that helps to support the convention center as well. And so I'll let Zach give us a quick presentation on this and just talk through what's proposed with this today. You will note that it's introduced today. We'll have a public hearing on May the 14th, and then the adoption is planned for May 17th. May 21st. We call for an election on August 27th. Zach?
Well, good morning, Council. Good morning, City Manager. Good morning, Vice Mayor Peck as well. Good to see everyone this morning. So, City Manager just alluded, I'm here to share with you a proposal to increase the hotel occupancy tax by 3.75%. You know, this is something that we've been discussing for years, certainly internally. Even predates the groundbreaking of our beautiful convention center. So we can go back to 2017 and 2018 and really see the need for this. I think something that's really important that I want to underscore is I've spoken with a lot of our key hotel stakeholders. They certainly saw the importance then. They continue to see the importance now, and I would say just a vast majority of them are fully supportive of this initiative. The other thing that I want to share, and I know that you're privy to this, but just for the public, I want to just make sure it's crystal clear. This is not an increase in sales tax. This is an increase in the hotel occupancy tax that predominantly visitors pay when they come and experience Oklahoma City and all that it's worth. And so with that said, I've got a brief presentation, and Jane, if you go ahead and click into it right now. I wanted to start with this community vitality wheel that you see up on the screen here, because it really paints the picture of the power of tourism, and in my opinion, the trajectory that we're on in Oklahoma City and all the benefits that we'll reap from that. So you see at the top that it starts with a visit. That's the old adage. I'd slightly disagree with that. I'd say it starts with a positive impression that leads to a positive visitor experience in our local community. You know, from that, so many good things happen and come to fruition. Number one, a boatload of state and local taxes are delivered. Specifically, let me quantify boatload. 343 million of both state and local taxes were delivered in 2022 because of the power of tourism right here in Oklahoma City in the state of Oklahoma. You know, from that are policymakers, City Hall, that are stewards of certainly this sales tax. We receive it, you all receive it, and we make great decisions with that money. Those monies go to maximize initiatives like MAPS, security, public services, just to name a few. The beautiful thing about this, Will, is it continues. You know, that same visitor that came, they go back home to wherever home is. They share with their neighbors all the great things that's going on here in Oklahoma City and hopefully influence their neighbors to come and experience it for themselves. You know, from there, the work here continues as you all create quality of life for your constituents, the residents of Oklahoma City. Those visitors continue to come in. And then by chance, that same visitor that started this just thinks, by chance, maybe I should relocate there. Maybe I should start a business there. Maybe I should send my kids to college in that region of Oklahoma City because it's so great. And so wanted to share those details with you as we move to the next slide. You know, this is something that really keeps me up at night as the leader of Visit Oklahoma City. And it's a good thing, but it's all the new infrastructure that we see around us right now, but certainly all the infrastructure that's in the queue for Oklahoma City for the future. That ranges from private development, when you look at the Oak, when you look at the Horizons District, that also ranges to public development, such as all the MAPS 4 initiatives that take place and those that impact the visitation economy. In addition, most recently, it's this arena. This past December, as taxpayers supported that arena vote, when it opens, it's going to be the finest arena in the land. And so getting back to the pain points that keeps me up at night is, how do we maximize this infrastructure as a community as we move forward? Certainly as the primary tenants are not in place, what is our plan? And what's our financial incentives to maximize those things? There's so many things that we could do on the horizon with this infrastructure. In my opinion, this infrastructure is first-tier city infrastructure. So when you think about SEC championships, Big 12 championships, certainly NAIA events and championships that could come here. You think about festivals and events and so many things that we could do with this infrastructure. All of those things take financial incentives. Unfortunately, that fund right now is maximized, and so there's not ample opportunity as it rests right now to go ahead and deliver those results. So that's a huge opportunity and one of the core reasons for this proposal. The other one, as we move to the next slide, is our image and perception. And just candidly, I'll tell you, when visitors come here and they experience Oklahoma City, they fall in love with it just like we have. They go back and they tell their neighbors great things about Oklahoma City. The challenge is, what happens is the positive connotation of Oklahoma City is really within a drive market radius. Once we get outside of that, certainly coast to coast, we really fall into this neutral connotation. People don't know our story. That's a huge opportunity, not only for the visitation economy, but it's a huge opportunity for small businesses, for private businesses across the metro to help them and to help the benefits of visitors as they come in. Give you an update as we move to the next slide on the history of the visitor tax, or specifically for the ordinance, the hotel tax. You know, it was, the inception of it was 1972, as you can see on the screen. Just a couple things I want to point out here is, as the city manager alluded to, the promotional or tourism promotion of this 2% component has not changed in 52 years. Let me say that another way. Promoting tourism, or the financial mechanism behind that, has not changed since 1972. The other thing I want to mention, in 2004, we went back and amended this ordinance. Vast majority of those monies were delivered, rightfully so, for improvements at the Oklahoma City Fairgrounds, so that's that 3% component. and 90% of the voters approved it and supported that initiative. So on the screen right now, you really see this new competitive set that my team competes with on a day in and day out basis. You know, we have stepped on a larger stage as Oklahoma City. But with that, in my opinion, comes responsibility. What you'll see here is you'll see total taxes and assessments upon checkout that a guest would receive on a hotel folio in our surrounding hotels in Oklahoma City versus these competitive peers. When you remove the city of Wichita, the median up here, I'll do the math for you, is 17.94%. That's a key number to remember here in a few slides. So this is how those tax dollars translate into operating budgets and financial incentives for these respective CVBs or destination marketing organizations. One more slide, and then the proposal, breakdown of the proposal, is these are really a capture of our regional cities. And I think it's important for you all to see this as well. Like, for example, Norman versus us is at 16.75% total taxes and assessments. They increased their hotel occupancy tax last year by 3% with 70% voter approval. And so here's the breakdown of the proposal, as the city manager alluded to. Proposing to increase the hotel occupancy tax by 3.75%, of which 75% would be dedicated to tourism promotion. Again, something that we haven't done in 52 years. 13% would be dedicated to that event sponsorship fund. That's that financial incentive fund to really drive these marquee events this way. Approximately 70% would be delivered for improvements non-operational for the Oklahoma City Fairgrounds, and approximately 5% would be delivered for improvements non-operational for the Oklahoma City Convention Center. As it ages, we want to ensure that it remains pristine and really just a beautiful center for years to come. And so with that, I'll pause and certainly answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Zach.
I just have a couple. Thank you for the presentation. As we look at, and I know we've had a briefing on what these fees could look like. Will you go back to that last slide for me, please? Looking at, this is the first part of my question. Looking at this 3.75% increase, I'm curious to understand where we are with funding as far as the fairgrounds and capital improvements for that are concerned, as well as the convention center, if we already have established ways that we are working on capital improvements for both, because I know especially with MAPS 4 and MAPS 3, when pertaining to the fairgrounds, there has been some different funding sources that have been created in order for us to maintain that. And looking at the convention center, I believe, and I could be mistaken as well, but we have possibly some ways of ensuring that we're able to take care of that facility as well. So I'm just curious where we are in comparison to asking for additional funding for both of those facilities.
Sure, I'll take that. So the convention center, just answering that one first, we don't have another dedicated source of funding that goes to the convention center. We'll use various funding sources. We are working with them on the potential for a naming rights that would provide, we would want to dedicate a portion of that, kind of like what we did with softball and the announcement yesterday, and have a portion of that to go to this. This would add, we were targeting about $500,000 a year that would be set aside to help us with funding the improvements on capital, or providing capital improvements at the convention center. This does a little bit north of that, I think it is, but this would just help us to have a source that's there. And actually, it's dedicated to capital improvements. It would only be used for that source. This likely would not be the only source of funding that would go to that, but it would help us to keep up with some of the capital improvement needs that are there for convention center. On the fairgrounds, the issue with the fairgrounds is really that we've gotten to a point that they had to maximize so many revenues from the fairgrounds right now. That's the hotel tax that's there towards the Coliseum to get it done right, because we had that gap in the budget. So they had to commit so much there that the additional funding that we've had in the past from the hotel tax that wasn't paying towards bonds with any of the improvements we made, whether with the barns or with the Coliseum. That money was used to fund capital improvements on the fairgrounds, and really all of that is basically committed at this point. This would now allow us to have some additional funding to do additional capital improvements, just as those facilities are aging, to take care of them.
Okay, I guess that brings me to the part 2 of that particular question, because I see we found a creative way to create additional ways of capital improvements for those particular public facilities, but we still have quite a few other public facilities that still stand in the gap. So I guess my concern is because we're picking out 2 particular places or public facilities, and I understand, yes, these are places of attraction, but I think about the ways right now we're trying to bring a couple of our MAPS 4 projects, one in particular, the Clara Luper Civil Rights Center. We're trying to bring that online, and we're unable to find extra funding for it, but here we are finding extra capital improvements. I think about, as we go to Riversport, we've been trying to figure out some other ways to ensure that we have capital improvements for that. I'm thinking about our Adventure District, ways we have capital improvements for that. So these particular places that we chose to find additional funding for, I believe we could use other ways to support this particular way to support that as well. And I think it would be important to understand when people visit and use that hotel, use our facilities as far as our hotels, where they are going, where they're visiting, where are they? Are they actually frequenting the fairgrounds more so than the the Okana area comes fully online than that area, the FAM area? Are they going to Adventure District in comparison to the convention center per se? So I think it's unfortunate that we're just picking 2 places to place capital improvements on instead of fully looking at our inventory of public facilities to say, well, these particular things are places where people find, even Paseo or our other communities, you know, as far as our city is concerned, different districts are concerned, because we have people staying all over the city, and because you may not have an inventory of hotels in that particular district, we just may assume if they're by the fairgrounds, they're going to the fairgrounds. That may be all some of these folks know as far as where to stay. In order for them to go all the way across town to visit the USA softball complex, now the Devon Park. You know, so those are the things I'm thinking about in this process of how we truly work through this proposed rate, because we're always gonna have, you know, and I know that's just how it is, we're always gonna have those people in places that fall in the gap. But how can we be very intentional about this particular increase to ensure that it's taking care of at least not just these bigger projects, but trickle down to those smaller places that we know are going to need some support? Because quite frankly, you know, one of the things that I advocate for and now going to understand yesterday for us promoting Devon Park, this is huge. This is really huge for our city. And we don't have enough hotels in that area that support this. And this should be a reason to bring and support capital improvements to bring on other hotels and facilities such as this for these particular places. So I know that was a loaded conversation from me or statement, but these are the things that I consider when looking at this. And I know when we had our other conversation briefing, I talked about that Norman. Will you go back a couple slides? And we were looking at the Norman tax that is in comparison to ours. And one of the things I want to publicly say in this meeting, because we had it in our briefing, was the fact that we have smaller conferences or cultural conferences that, because they are unable to make those numbers work here, they go to Norman. And as you see, the total room tax is higher in Norman than it is here. And unfortunately, they are people, those smaller groups or conventions or conferences are unable to make their numbers work because of even just the room rate in comparison to the convention fees and taxes and other things that folks can't afford. So there's still some things that have to be worked out through this process, and I'm hoping that we'll publicly be able to talk through and transparently talk through these things before we get to that vote in August.
If I could, Councilwoman, all good things that you brought up today and you brought up recently. Let me say a few things, and I don't want to overspeak for the city or the city manager, but as we look at improvements, non-operational, for these really vital assets for us, at the end of the day, it takes pressure off the general fund. Takes pressure off CIP here to do all the things that you alluded to, whether it's the Civil Rights Center, other MAPS 4 initiatives. It really helps everything out. I know on paper it looks like it's dedicated, because it is, to these very vital, robust demand generators for us. But at the end of the day, that was my context as I was going through the process with you all and with the city manager. The other thing I wanted to share is it's tremendous. You know, we get a lot of data that really shares the visitor to resident ratio throughout the wards. And I'll talk to you. I've got a data numbers up here, but it's incredible when we do an event at the fairgrounds or at the convention center, where those visitors go. You know, they go to the Adventure District. They go to Chisholm Creek. They go to the Paso, the Arts District. They go to the Asian District. They go all over the city. They support small businesses, you know, whether it's in any of these districts. And that's the incredible thing about it. And we watched this trail. I've shared with you before in a recent city council meeting about that. And that's the really cool thing about this. With support of this, it really supports the whole ecosystem across Oklahoma City.
Would you go back to, thank you. None of the other council members have something to say, because I do have some requests here, and I don't want to take up. Okay. So first, let me say I do see the need to move to a higher rate. When I see the comparables to other cities, that makes sense to me. Oklahoma City, 20th largest city now, 6th fastest growing. That part, no brainer. My ask/concern. The fairgrounds are clearly a big deal. I was honored a year ago this time when former Jefferson Middle School students came to me and asked me to give their commencement speech, which is weird to have been teaching 12 and 13 and 14-year-olds and then to not see them for a while, and then to get an email at the Ward 2 office saying, we're graduating. Time flies, right? And now I'm old. And so, but it was really cool to go to that convention center, or sorry, that Coliseum, and the parents who aren't just here, but their extended families who are coming from all over, not just Oklahoma, but arguably, you know, the country, and taking up shop that night at the Coliseum. So I understand that is a big deal, right? I understand too, the convention center is clearly a big deal and a public investment, a significant public investment voters made. Paseo, 39th Street LGBT district, which is also Route 66, the Asian district, Uptown 23rd, Britain district, Windsor district, Stockyards, Capitol Hill are not afterthoughts. They are, in fact, from, as you all know, as you might recall, they are, in fact, from research, the places that tourists tell us they go when they come here, and moreover, they are the destinations, the places our own residents take visitors upon their arrival to this city. And yet, we don't have funding, for instance, for street cleaning in those districts. Like right now in downtown, their bid allows for them to, and I just saw it the other day, allows for them to have, like for their bike lanes, like a cleaning up, the bike lanes to make sure they're good for both the visitors and the residents to get through them. But I'm not just talking about bike lanes. I'm talking about when I go to other cities and I see street cleaning, right? Like on the street, like cleaning the street. You talk about first impressions, right? First impression is when I see a city investing in keeping the ongoing conditions of places that matter to them. And so I have long heard from city leadership, the general fund just doesn't have the funding to do, for instance, street cleaning. The number of these placemaking projects from Better Street, Safer City, or from MAPS, which frequently I hear from staff about the limitations of the voter-approved funding for those projects, saying, well, ultimately we can't do this sort of capital improvement with this project. We'll have to wait for the bond, for instance. But there's so many other needs. So for me, what's missing here is some sort of, and maybe before this gets to a final vote, I think that there has to be more consideration for capital improvements for places like Stockyards and Britain and these historic main streets. It can't always be sadness in Oklahoma. Sulphur's Main Street destroyed. And that made the news, right? But Sulphur is literally, hand to God, one of my favorite places outside of Ward 2. And its Main Street is what has long guided me thinking about the main streets of Oklahoma City. And I think right now this current proposal is missing two vital things. One, some sort of consideration for capital improvements in these places where we're already making investments. We're already making public investments. But the maintenance of those investments is what I'm asking for consideration here. So that's number one. And that could, that could be, again, capital, but then that could also be operations, like literally something like street cleaning. Paseo will have its ribbon cutting on Friday. We're about to go blast water onto the streets to make it nice and pretty for everybody. But the recommendation I heard from the crew a couple weeks ago is that that should probably happen at least once a quarter. I'm gonna come to City Manager Freeman, and I can promise you he's not a bad guy, but when I say to him, hey, can we find funds for once a quarter for street cleaning the Paseo, this award-winning, nationally recognized neighborhood on the National Historic Registry? And Craig will say to me, nope, we don't have the funding, James. What? Like, we don't have the funding for something that is nationally recognized, something that I have seen Ward 8's councilperson bring guests to Ward 2. If we're gonna promote tourism, then we have to make sure the first impression of those places, if not pristine, is nice. And right now, it ain't. And I don't see that sort of creativity, to Councilwoman Nice's comment, going into that. So I'd like some sort of amendment to the capital improvement, and moreover, some sort of, and we've spoken about this in private, so this is nothing I have not said to you all in private that I'm just now saying in public. You know, the other component here is the literal promotion of Paseo, of 39th Street. These are crown jewels. I've had people from Boston. I've had queer people from Boston and Spain and Mexico when they visited here for the Congress for New Urbanism a couple years ago. They were blown away when they visited 39th Street, which was still under construction. Wasn't even done. And they're like, what? You all have gay bars and clubs all within walking distance, proximity to one another? This is incredible. We don't have that in Boston. And I said, You sure don't. You know, that's how much pride I have in 39th Street. And I don't understand where that, you like that? But I don't know why, where is that promotion? Where is that promotion of Uptown nationally? You talk about in that, would you go back a couple slides, the critiques of us? Keep going. Thank you. Yep, keep going. There. Lack of brand awareness. You know, our brand is Paseo. Our brand is the 240 corridor. Our brand is Stockyards. Our brand are these historic main streets that we have brought back to life, that everyday people have taken a chance on small businesses in those areas. And I just want us to rethink. I'm not saying like start all over here, but if you go back to the funding part. So this is not just rhetoric for me. Can we not just go back and have some little bullet points under what we mean by additional 75% for tourism promotion? Why then, secondly, does it have to be, you know, these 2% for the fairgrounds and the convention center? Where is this adventure district? Where is the, you know, you're close. I'm not mad. I'm just saying that I think this is kind of missing the last nearly 25 years of where the Renaissance has been, and the Renaissance has been in the neighborhoods. In addition to, it is in the neighborhoods, it is in these districts.
So I would just say that the promotion side of this, I mean, there's many different ways that we fund various things, and you're right, we could even add something into this. We're going to be limited. We're not going to be able to do everything that you want to do. The funding won't be there to do everything we want to do. But the promotion side of this, I believe, the intent really is to promote the entire city. It's not just promoting one particular district. I think Zach was saying it before, like the idea is we want to make sure that we're promoting these other districts as well. One of the things we've heard frequently is that people will come and visit and they say Oklahoma City is one of the best kept secrets because they didn't realize what we had to offer here. Well, we don't want that to happen any longer, and I think having this funding dedicated to the promotion side and the sponsorships helps us with assisting events to get here, but also in promoting the entire city. And so I think looking at all of it as a whole, I think this is a source that's dedicated and really trying to focus towards those primary areas that bring the greatest number of visitors in, is why we focus fairgrounds and convention center capital improvements. But the intent is to be promoting and providing sponsorships that affects the entire city.
So on that note, and I'm happy to hear that, but I think the proof is in the pudding. It's one thing to say intent. It's another thing to have little literally bullet points, right? Under where it says like additional 75% for tourism to promotion, to have Chisholm Creek, to have adventure, voters need to know what our game plan is and what we're hoping to accomplish here. And I think spelling that out for them as we go into an election and as we go into a public hearing and a final vote, I just think that level of clarity will make the districts feel better, right? Because a lot of them are like, oh my gosh, what again? Like, why don't we have this? And we keep being told no on that. But, you know, the city finds money for this, that, and the other. So I think actually spelling out for them here that, you know, just literally under little items like this, I think is actually important. Yes, I just think that's very important, is spelling that out. I also would like some sort of conversation again about could we use some of these dollars generated here for the operations of, literally the maintenance, the actual cleaning of streets and or landscaping needs of these areas, because right now those are just limitations. And again, people are coming there from outside of your city to these areas, and I care about them, and I would like to see some sort of commitment spelled out and rethought here. I feel like I am forgetting something, but those are big deals. Like, I just too long didn't read just to say again, people come to these places. They come to Paseo, they come to the districts. That's where we're taking them. They matter. They're staying in these hotels and going to these places.
Councilman, thank you so much for your feedback. Just a few brief points to underscore what the city manager said, but maybe to open the door to some conversations over the next several days. And I'll be reaching back out to you to have these conversations. but I think all your points are warranted. Number one, I want to mention, we've got such a great relationship with our district managers. You know, these hidden gems, and the challenge is they're hidden right now. These hidden gem districts, the Paseo you alluded to 2 or 3 times, shouldn't be hidden. There shouldn't be too much of a surprise to visitors when they come. We've got to break through that clutter so that people know that when they come to Oklahoma City, for example, they're going to have to go to the Paseo district. I'll share with you, but I think more important to maybe have some of the district managers share with you really the current value, even monetary value that we provide to these districts right now, that exists right now, whether it's for their annual festivals, whether it's to support other initiatives from a marketing perspective. That all goes in that tourism promotion bucket. In addition to that, other festivals. You know, I know we have a Pride Fest next month. We just deemed them a hometown hero, and we support that. We support that with dollars and resources, and we want to continue to support that and amplify these events that really show the diverse landscape of Oklahoma City. I think as it relates, just my final point as it relates to streetscaping, et cetera, I see the dire need as well, because these districts I'm extremely fond of too. What I'll share with you with these case studies, and even currently where we're at, I'm going to go back to that $343 million. Let's talk about local taxes, the breakdown of those local taxes. It's approximately $100 million currently that comes to the city of Oklahoma City to do good work. And some of those works from a public service standpoint, you allude. The case studies we look at is the trajectory for that pot of monies in the visitation economy is true north. We're seeing just 4 and 5 and 6-fold dividends through the visitation economy that not only helps the hotel occupancy tax, but helps local sales tax. That's what I'm committed to grow. That's where I feel like there's going to be ample resources in the future where we can do all these good things that you suggest. But I do hear you. I want to have some further conversations with you around this, and point taken, and we'll go back and we'll kind of reevaluate what we're doing internally, but I appreciate your time.
I really think these discussions are healthy and good, and we need to do more of these. A couple of observations. When you look at the Oklahoma Convention Center, Craig, Oklahoma City Convention Center, when I think back about the Myriad and when we developed that, I've been living here all my life, and how we didn't have adequate funds to maintain that and make the necessary capital improvements for that, in my opinion, and kind of fell into a state of disrepair. And so the convention center is really important to me. It was a big investment. The second thing, can you tell me a little bit as far as the Oklahoma City Fairgrounds is concerned? All the events out there, including all the horse events, what kind of revenues does that generate for us? Is this probably our biggest tourist attraction?
It certainly is. Tens of millions of dollars that are generated each and every year because of the Oklahoma City Fairgrounds. It's tremendous. It's still really our cash cow as it relates to the power of visitation and why people come here. The length of stays that economic engine produces is just incredible. And then although there's other assets coming online, the mix has certainly changed over the last 20 years since we did this last, but it still is a predominant force for us, Councilman.
Thank you.
Craig, one more thing. Just to reiterate, this vote here is not us imposing this tax. We are voting to put it on the ballot for the citizens to vote.
Right.
Yes.
And two, we've discussed with a lot of our hotel vendors, everybody, and they're on board with this. In fact, they're actually helping push for this. They're encouraging it, correct?
Yes, you just saw, I don't know if you saw it publicly, but Jeff Penner with the Greater Oklahoma City Metro Hotel Association fully supports it.
Okay.
So just a point of clarification, Councilmember Carter, what we're voting for today is to introduce the ordinance, set the public hearing, and then the final vote here date.
Correct, but
And on the final vote date is when we will send it to the voters.
correct, but we don't get to impose that. We are
That is
sending
correct.
it to the public to do this. Gotcha. I just wanted to make sure for record that everyone understands that.
Gotcha.
Thank you very much.
But I think it's important to also note that as we make this decision to send it to the voters, that we are responsible to ensure that we're vetting the same language to make sure when those voters get it, that they understand what they're voting specifically and effectively for. And as we talk about, even, again, I want to go back, and I think it's important we continue to say what these things are as far as cash cows are concerned, but when we look at also other places, one, we look at how well built that whole strategy and sport has been built for the fairgrounds. We have hotels that have been specifically built for the fairgrounds. When we look at comparison for Adventure District, this is a world-renowned area. Boathouse District, a world-renowned area. So these places have just as much credibility, and I would quite frankly say when we look at the Adventure District, more, because we have world-renowned visibility in these places. However, we can't particularly say what by visitor rate, other than how many visitors say they're from a different place. When it comes to hotels and stays, we can't quantify that. So I think it's very, in my opinion, it's skewed to say all of these things when we haven't looked at the full aspect of what we're looking at in comparison, in my opinion, to Adventure District. They don't have that support system. They don't have the things that they need to leverage and say, this could be the cash cow. They don't have that support. So that's why I think it's very important. And I know we're saying we're not categorizing and putting preferential treatment for a couple of places, but it's in black and white. We are. We clearly are. So I think that's something, and I hope as the public hears this, when we come to that public hearing process, that they are expressing how they feel about the places that should be supported and how we look at even this event sponsorship fund. So that was my last comment that I'm going to make about this today, is as we look at the event sponsorship is a dedication of that sponsorship and quite frankly for the tourism promotion for our smaller conferences and conventions, because we always go after that bigger fish, but we have some small fish that would love to be a part of what Oklahoma City brings, and we don't give them the opportunity to say, yes, we were able to have bragging rights and the carpet rolled out for us as a small convention in comparison to these bigger more prominent type of conventions that you see that have the funds to be here, and we still throw money at those. So I would like to see how we would create a dedication for smaller conferences and conventions in both of those aspects in those areas as well.
I don't want to elongate this too much, but it's all good dialogue, and I think it's really important to underscore a few of the councilwoman's points. Yeah, I'm grateful probably a month ago that we started discussing the DST Central Region program that's coming in July. It's an incredible program. We're going to welcome back to our city. They haven't been here for decades. And as part of this tourism promotion bucket is supporting them and providing them resources as we welcome them to our great city. And so really excited about that opportunity. I think the other thing, we haven't talked about it a lot together, but I think the other thing is, I'm an ex-hotelier, 22 years in the hotel space, know it very well. And one of the things I do is I interface with a lot of potential hotel developers around feasibility. I'm really grateful for Boomtown and what that might do for the Adventure District. I've talked to those developers quite a bit. I'm working with potential hotel partners for that district. It's such a vital need for this. What I'll share with you in case studies is that when we go back and we look at some of these peer set cities, after they've increased the hotel occupancy tax, what follows is actually a boost in revenue per available room, a boost in occupancy, and really an appetite for a developer to start doing enhanced feasibility and build more supply. And I do see that where we have voids, I do see more supply coming in that'll fill some of these voids, specifically with the Adventure District, so I'm excited about that. The final thing I want to mention, and this is really important, You know, we're the stewards of these monies, but these monies are oversaw by our Convention and Visitors Commission. This event sponsorship fund has an event sponsorship committee. You know, those are nominated based on city code and put in place right here at the Horseshoe. And so those people that are part of that are really instrumental in the success of this. This event sponsorship fund, we solely only manage it. They tell us where those sponsorship dollars should go based on current ordinance that was founded back in 2004, and we simply put them in place. And so those people that are involved on that commission, as all commissions, are really vitally important to this process.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate the introduction, appreciate the partnership and your leadership in this to really bring us forward so that we can put us on another level in the way that we're bringing in visitors into our community. So thank you.
Thank you all.
Craig, I just want to add one thing, and I can't help myself. I appreciate Councilman Cooper calling out I-240 as a destination district, and we would love to have street sweepers and bike lanes and beautification, but let's get some sidewalks there before we do any of that.
Thank you all.
Zach, thank you. And I just want to acknowledge Visit OKC's efforts. You know, I traveled through Will Rogers World Airport, and we've recently had installations out there that actually depict a lot of different areas of Oklahoma City. So I don't know if you've seen those yet. You know, over the last several decades, a lot of times when you see Oklahoma City advertisements, you see our skyline, which is amazing, and I love it. But what I'm seeing at the airport now are beginning to bring in these other areas and the other activities that go on in Oklahoma City, including the boathouse district, and some allusions towards the arts districts and those types of things. So I'm excited to see that continue to evolve, and I'm hoping that this will contribute to that. The other thing I'd like to say is, you know, I travel quite a bit for my day job, and I have an opportunity to see other cities' advertisements outside of their hometowns, and I don't get to see ours very much out there. So I'm looking forward to this opening up that opportunity. So as I travel, I get to see our great city in these other places because we have a lot to offer. So thank you for the presentation. Thank you to the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber for all their efforts and coordination and collaboration on this effort, and to the Oklahoma City Hoteliers Association for their support.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you again.
So we're at a point now where we need to take a motion to introduce the ordinance, set the hearing for May 14th, and the final public hearing for May 14th, and the final hearing for May 21st.
Before we do, City Manager, so before that final vote, I'm guessing there would be some sort of conversations taking place about the discussions we just had here.
Yes, we can have discussions about the desires that they're, again, we got to be thinking about the whole council and where we are. Kenny and I were talking that I don't think like amending the ordinance itself is really advisable to the degree that we're talking about, but I think we can certainly have discussions about what the desires are.
When you say amending, so again, what I'm asking for is some drilling down under, for instance, that 75% number to say, yeah, explanations saying this is how we imagine this funding.
We'll absolutely get that included and have some discussions about that and how we're handling that.
And then I would like a little, if you're not going to be able to, would be disappointing, but if we're not going to be able to figure out how to do similar capital improvement investments in the districts the way we're doing with the other two entities, I would hope that between now and that final vote, we're at least having conversations about what those costs are, and that first I'd like to understand, as we head into that final vote, why we can't use some of this money to do what we are asking for, and then if not here, where? Because those needs aren't going away. Like I'm not trying to be like a stick in the mud. They're just not going away. And then finally, making sure that we are emphasizing, it sounds like, some sort of pedestrian infrastructure for our good friends along I-240. So, but no, these are just the actual, I think, nuts and bolts conversations that we need to be having. So I'd like between now and the end of that vote. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Mine isn't either. Okay. Councilmember Stone?
I'm an aye, but it didn't show up on the screen.
Okay. Councilmember Stone Cipher?
Yes, please.
And I'm an aye.
Hey, hold on. Ward 1 left.
He voted before you.
Kenny,
Excuse me.
can he
Yes, I
leave?
would vote.
Can he leave during the vote?
Councilman Carter, Councilman Carter cast his vote. He cast his vote in the computer. But then he left.
So he voted when he was present,
Yeah.
We weren't done.
right?
Okay.
He cast his vote, so.
All right, so it passes unanimously.
Yeah, according to Robert's Rules of Order, I think we need to, that needs to be confirmed.
What was the vote?
Well, I was talking about the charter requirement that if they're not going to vote, they leave, but I guess he left after he voted, so I wanted to clarify.
He cast his vote.
The way we're doing it electronically, he cast his vote while he was
Okay.
still present in the chambers.
Okay. Just
So,
wanted, I just wanted to clarify.
What was the vote?
He voted aye.
It was 8-0. So even if you don't count
Seven.
him, it's 7-0.
Right.
So I just want to clarify, you can cast the vote and then get up and leave.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, because I will be researching that.
All right. Can you help me with my screen?
Hang on one sec.
Hey, Amy.
Oh, I broke it. Good now? No, okay.
Something wrong. Okay, we're having a technology moment.
Yes. If you guys will just bear with us for just a moment. Technology's great when it works, but it kind of slows it down a little bit. No.
It's like it's just waiting, there's no decision.
Okay.
It's just stupid. So it's either 7-0 or 8-0.
We're getting ready to be.
I was just making sure we
Yeah,
still had a quorum.
sorry. Okay.
Now give me a second to.
We got 5, Nikki.
I want to make sure I'm present.
Oh, okay.
Current
Oh,
vote
okay, okay.
is still in play.
Got it.
Okay. So that was item O has been settled. It had passed 8-0. So, sorry, Councilwoman Nice. All right, so we will move on now to item 11P. It's a public hearing regarding ordinance related to parks, recreation, cultural affairs, and amending Chapter 38 of the Oklahoma City Municipal Code. I believe we had a presentation on this in the past. No one has signed up to speak.
Correct.
Okay. So we will close that public hearing and we will move to item 11Q, public hearing regarding ordinance related to parks, recreation, and cultural affairs. No one has signed,
No one has signed up to speak.
okay. So So we will close that public hearing and we will move to item 11R, the public hearing regarding ordinances related to water resources, amending Chapter 57, the Oklahoma City Municipal Code. Madam City Clerk, has anyone signed up to speak?
No, they haven't.
All right. And we will close that public hearing and move on to item 11S, public hearing regarding ordinance related to general schedules of fees, amending Chapter 60 of the Oklahoma City Municipal Code. Madam City Clerk, has anyone signed up to speak?
They have not.
So we will close that public hearing and we will move on to item 11T, the public hearing regarding ordinance related to general schedule of fees, amending Chapter 60 of the Oklahoma City Municipal Code. Has anyone signed up to speak?
No, they haven't.
So we will close that public hearing and we will move to item 11U, public hearing regarding ordinance related to the general schedules of fees, amending Chapter 60 of the Oklahoma City Municipal Code, Title 18. Has anyone signed up to speak?
No, they have not.
We will close that public hearing and move on to item 11V, a public hearing regarding the ordinance related to the general schedule of fees. This is for Chapter 60, Title 35. Has anyone signed up to speak?
They have not.
So we will close that public hearing and we will move on to item 11W, the public hearing regarding the ordinance related to the general schedule of fees, amending Chapter 60, Title 3 of the Oklahoma City Municipal Code. Has anyone signed up to speak?
They have not.
So we'll close that public hearing. And I'm going to make sure I get the right next item. All right, so item 11X, a public hearing regarding an ordinance related to general schedule fees, amending Chapter 60, Title 33. Mr. City Manager, is this the one
Yes.
that we're going to get an overview on?
Yes.
Okay.
We had some questions at the last meeting regarding the municipal court fees, and so Galen Keaton, the Assistant Director for Municipal Courts, is here to give us an update on the information that was provided previously.
Morning, Vice Mayor and Council. At your request, I'm going to provide some additional context regarding the assessment of...
You move that a little closer.
Thank you.
Please. Thank you.
I'll provide some additional context regarding the assessment of court costs and fees. I want to note a few things first. Court costs are assessed to cover the cost of prosecution and they remain in municipal court. Currently, what we collect in court costs does not cover the cost of prosecution. The last time court fees and costs were adjusted was in 2004. As of March, we've collected about $3.8 million in court costs for fiscal year '24. For that same time period, the cost of prosecution expenses are just over $9 million. So we're currently recovering about 42% of our expenses, which means 58% of the cost of prosecution is being subsidized by the general fund. The court cost increases in the proposed ordinance will help us recover some of these costs. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks for that. On the final vote, when that happens, can we just make sure there was I think there was like a graphic, a chart that actually had what the fee request had been versus what we're going to do. And I think that would probably be an important thing just to have visible for the public that day, just so they can see, like, this was what was.
And that was in the presentation that Chris provided?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Okay, I got it.
Yes. Well, I don't know if it was in, Councilman Cipher was, I know it was in the presentation to us. I feel like it was in that one, was it? Okay.
And the other thing is that I'd like us to show that we haven't had a fee increase since 2004, and currently we're recovering about 42% of our cost on prosecution fees.
Yeah, at one time on the court costs, actually the fees covered full cost at one time. And just over time with its changes there's a lot of things that have changed, but over time it's gotten to where we're significantly below what we're collecting now. I mean, the costs are above what we're collecting now.
Yeah, and I think to Councilman Stonecipher's point,
I'm sorry, you were talking though specifically about providing the information to about courts.
just any of these fees right here in terms of the courts.
Okay.
And any of those municipal court related fees. And to Councilman Stonecipher's point, what we just heard about, it's not been since '04. I think that needs to be there. But I think the most important thing for me that day is for residents to see again that there's literal labor, right, that goes into the whole court process, and that right now the cost for that labor and that and the work the workforce is doing it's not able to do what it needs to do, and that this is where the increase in fees would go. So in other words, it's not just going to like just prosecution as a concept, but literally here's the work. And I think people will maybe feel a little bit better about that if they see it spelled out for everybody. That's what I'm asking.
Got it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the item is a public hearing. We've heard from council members.
No one signed up to speak.
No one has signed up to speak. Okay, so we will close that public hearing, and we will move on to item 11Y, public hearing regarding ordinance related to the general schedule of fees, amending Chapter 60, the Oklahoma City Municipal Code 2020, Title 59. City Clerk, has anyone signed up to speak?
They have not.
All right, so we will close that public hearing. And we will move on to item 11Z, a public hearing regarding the ordinance related to general schedule of fees for the Fire Prevention Code, Title 20. I'm going to struggle now, so that.
And no one has signed up.
Okay, thank you. So we will close that public hearing, and we will move to item 11AA, a public hearing regarding the ordinance related to the general schedule of fees, amending Chapter 60, the Oklahoma City Municipal Code, Title 43. Has anyone signed up to speak?
They have not.
We will close that public hearing and move to item 11AB regarding unsecured structures. Madam Clerk, has anyone signed up to speak?
No, they haven't.
Okay. Item A and B previously struck. We will move to item 2, resolution declaring structures are unsecured. Can I get a motion?
Oh, you're frozen.
Ward 1 made a motion.
Okay, hold on. Let me.
Ward 2 second. We'll
One
take
second.
a voice vote.
Here, I think I can.
Are you ready?
There you go.
Oh, there it goes.
It disappeared. Okay, we're going to finish that by roll call.
Okay.
Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2, Ward 4, Ward 5, 7, Ward 8, Vice Mayor.
Yes. That passes unanimously. We will move on to item 11AC, the public hearing on abandoned buildings. The single item remaining. Has anyone signed up to speak?
They have not.
All right, close that public hearing, and we'll move to item 2, the resolution declaring buildings as abandoned. Can I get a motion and a second? And the item passes. Okay, item 11AD, the public hearing regarding the amendment to the fiscal year 2024 budget. We
We had a presentation at the last meeting.
Right. Has anyone signed up to speak?
They have not.
All right, so we will close the public hearing and move on to item number 2, the resolution adopting that amendment. So we can get a motion.
Is it frozen? Is it frozen?
I move. Oh, good Lord.
Maybe. the item passes. We will move to the next, item 11AE, a resolution adopting an update to Bike Walk OKC. We are going to have a quick update from Jeff Butler.
Yes, this was deferred from the last meeting, and Jeff Butler, so ask him to give just a little quick update on some of the, a little bit about Bike Walk and then a change that we're looking at.
Yes, thank you. Jeff Butler, Planning Director. Good morning. Just a brief update. It was requested by Councilman Stonecipher. He had a few questions as he went through the plan, and so we've in response to that, put together this slide. In Ward 8, there are a few connections that he was wanting more information about, and so this is a bit of detail up here. There are some trails on Hefner Road, and going from the Cooper Trail, which surrounds Lake Hefner, and then there's connection also over to John Marshall High School, C.B. Cameron Park, connection up to the Martin Nature Park, and also further north, eventually, to Lone Oak Park. And that last extension north of the Turnpike is what we've gone ahead and added to the plan. It's something that was discussed previously but didn't make it in. So we're happy to do that. So that is really the only change, but we just did want to show drill into this area a little bit and show the council what's going on in that area and all those connections to the different parks and amenities that are either existing or going to be constructed in the near future. So making those connections is important. That's what trails do. That's what they're for, is to connect people to different facilities, provide a recreational amenity in and of themselves, and provide transportation as well. So with that, just as a recap of the plan itself, it's the first amendment to the plan was adopted in 2018. The goal is to provide a long-term plan, a capital improvement plan that lists projects prioritized so that we can fund them through MAPS, the general obligation bond, and other funding sources. It's a long game that we're playing. We want to make sure that we're developing a good network, a trail network, but also in appropriate areas, a bicycle network that right now is concentrated in the core, where there's a lot of demand for cycling, both the bike network in itself, but also getting people from their homes via a bike path or a bike lane to trails. Sidewalks also are covered by the plan as well, focused on pedestrian priority areas where sidewalks were not historically existent, weren't built, and focusing on also transit areas, transit corridors, putting sidewalks in those areas, and also surrounding schools and parks to help people get to those facilities easily and safely. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
The one thing I'd say is when I first came on the council, we were operating under a comprehensive plan from 1977. And in 2015, 2016, we came up with Plan OKC. 2018, we came up with the Bike Walk OKC plan. And as we continue to move forward, I think this is a great thing. I spent the weekend going through this quite thoroughly. I'm impressed with the work that's been done. Your staff spent a tremendous amount of time, and I know you did too, and I want to thank you for all those efforts. But I think this is what sets our city apart. I think this is what makes our city different, is that we stay on top of things and we continue to move forward in a positive direction.
I just have a couple comments. I guess my comments from 2 weeks ago weren't able to make it into this presentation or questions asked. But I wanted to ask again, as we look at this particular plan, the conversation pertaining to implementation of educating our residents about these proposed changes to their particular communities, as well as where within this plan it talks about us talking to other departments. In particular, I would say our utilities department and those other departments that will be impacted as far as our neighborhoods are concerned, specifically to Lottie Avenue, because now the question arises, how will the trash be picked up? How will all of these things occur? Because we have not been able to have those conversations, or I haven't read them in this particular information part of the Bike Walk OKC. So I'm curious again, and I'll ask continuously as far as that educational component of how we connect better with our neighbors and our residents, especially those that have been impacted by collisions, pedestrian collisions, most importantly, and also, again, changing the whole trajectory and street view of what particular areas will look like for this particular plan.
Thank you. So as far as education goes, we're developing a new website that will help with educating both drivers, cyclists, how to use the facilities. We've learned as we continue to implement new facilities such as the Lottie bike lane, which is a parking protective facility, something we haven't done before. That was a pilot project. Things like that. So you mentioned where to put garbage cans. That wasn't immediately clear to residents, and the answer is to put them in the parking lane. But what we'll do going forward is make sure that we have that information more readily available, so that people can see any kind of frequently asked questions will be in our webpage, and also in mailers that we send out, so that they know kind of the basics. You know what. For example, where you put trash can, whether or not you can use bike lane as a right turn lane, the answer is no. Several other things that we kind of get asked about and that people are curious about. You know, what do these particular markings mean? So we will have a web page that we're developing now. We also have information about the routes, how they connect to each other, that's on the website, so that you can see how to get to a trail, what bike lanes exist and so on. So that's something that we're constantly working on. And as we continue to improve our design and our safety, we will roll those out as well. The other thing that we're doing is trying to make the facilities themselves as intuitive as possible. So we're continuously improving our design and the signage and so on. So even the Lottie itself, for example, will be posting signs that indicate that the bike lane's here and this is where you park. And any improvements like that we carry forward into future projects.
Is there a reason why there still isn't any temporary signage on this street?
I'm not sure what Public Works timeline is on that, but I know that they're working on getting those installed.
Well, I think that's the issue as we're looking at how we have lacked in continuing to educate our community, because we're looking at over a month that we visited this area and we still have no signage. We still have people parking on the curb in an area that has clearly been striped to not park. And we also have a police department, unfortunately, that is telling people they can't park in these areas that are deemed where you are supposed to park. So again, I'm asking, how do we ensure that this language is in Bike Walk OKC of how we are communicating with these different departments to ensure the safety and the lack of interactions, if we can limit those, pertaining to different departments. If, again, we're now questioning in some aspects, some people feel criminalized because they're being stopped for doing something they were supposed to be doing in the first place. So I hope you understand my confusion and frustration with this, because this is the frustration of my community right now with what we are looking at without signage. It's bumper cars on Lottie, and that's very unfortunate right now. And the fact that it's been over 2 weeks. We had a town hall 2 weeks ago, last Tuesday. We had a whole sign of an example of what the sign is gonna look like, and we still haven't had it placed on Lottie. So those are concerns, and it speaks to, are we really worried about
more pedestrian crashes on this particular thoroughfare, or are we just going to let people do what they want to do? So I'm very concerned about this, and I'm very concerned about the rollout of this, and I'm concerned about the language not being included or amended to say how we will be very intentional about that. Because a website, yeah, okay, I can send you to a website, but we're live action with people experiencing and the lack of knowledge right now of where and how they're supposed to operate on this street. So I'm hoping within this week we can get some type of resolve temporarily for the residents and folks who have to frequent this street to understand what they can and can't do. So
Yeah, I'll check on that. Oh, here's Debbie now.
Hi, Councilwoman Nice. The signs have all been manufactured, and the contractor will start installing them later this week. We had that one sign constructed especially for your meeting so that we'd be able to show, but the others were being in production, so it's taken a little bit, but they should start installation later this week.
okay, well, I know that's one piece of the puzzle. So now we're still looking at the amendments that we need to make on the street in order for us to have more comfort for those drivers and more safety for the neighbors who park within the same area of where their homes are located. So I'm hoping, all of these things can work synonymously and collectively together, but it doesn't seem as if they are. I mean, I'm sure they are, and maybe I just don't know what's happening. But I would rather my residents know what's happening if I don't know what's happening. And right now, people are still calling me, asking me what's going on. So that's difficult to answer because I don't know. So I'm hoping, again, as we continue to look at the ways, and furthermore, we have a new area with this Route 66 bike lane that has been added to our inventory of bike infrastructure, if you will. Is that listed within this plan? Or I see Justin shaking his head yes. So being able to also explain the difference between some of our local projects and maybe some of those projects that aren't necessarily, they seem local, but they aren't necessarily a local project, a defined local project for our communities and residents to understand as well. Because again, after I explained that to our residents, after it was explained during the town hall, people were like, oh, okay. Even myself, it was like, okay, here we are. This is not something that we voted on locally, but this is something that was implemented on a state and federal level that we are now implementing. So it's those kind of things that also we have to look at how we inform our residents about the ways we are connecting our community. I don't have an issue with the bike lanes, but I'm hoping that we don't have the same type of issues when we bring others online, such as this in different communities that need them, but we're unable to really give them the knowledge and understanding of why it's important for them to know these will be effective for them. So I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate your work.
Okay, so we can take a motion to adopt the resolution.
Well, first we need to amend it.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you put that screen back up for a second, sir? Sorry. I want to amend at this time item 11AE, which is the resolution adopting an update to the Bike Walk OKC. That amendment will include the exhibit that's now on your screen. It's been titled by staff, the Meridian Avenue Trail Extension. And so I would ask that this picture, this exhibit, be made a part of the ordinance as an exhibit. That's my motion.
Okay, so the amendment was adopted, and now we can move the item 11AE as amended.
As amended, yes, please.
Vice Mayor, may I ask a question? I think it's for Director Butler. I was just looking at the bike walk amendment and Councilman Hinkle's earlier note about I-240 is still on my head. In my head? On my head. Interesting preposition. In my head, on page 121, and this is in my mind also, so I was talking to a Jefferson Middle School teacher yesterday, kind of checking in on them, my former teaching grounds, and I never want to feel like I have forgotten who brought me to the dance here with you all, and it was those kids and the staff at Jefferson, and they're right around the corner from 240, and I had a lot of families who live in apartments and neighborhoods around 240. Could you just briefly, and maybe it's something for later to go in more detail about, if I'm looking at this right, 240 is scheduled for phase 1 PPA sidewalks. I see that here.
And I think ACOG is picking up a large part of it.
I'm sorry, would you?
ACOG is picking up a large part of finishing out the sidewalks on 240. Justin
Yeah,
shaking
the
his head
specific
yes.
projects, I don't know, Justin, if they're, so you're asking about the projects under construction or soon to be funded?
I'd like to better understand exactly, it says phase 1 PPA sidewalks in red here on I-240, and then there's from Pennsylvania from 59th Street down to 81st, it looks like some sidewalks, just for my own clarification and wanted to get a better.
Some of those are in the works of being done already.
Okay.
Right.
Sure. Justin Henry, Planning Department. You're correct. The I-240 service roads kind of between I-35 and I-44 are all now in the phase 1 PPA, so high priority sidewalk. Councilman Hinkle is also correct that ACOG, we successfully wrote a couple of grant applications recently for some of those service roads, and ACOG will be helping us fund and build those.
And then is MAPS 4 taking care of the rest, or what funds? What
Not all MAPS 4 sidewalk projects have been decided, but we are actively drafting lists for those committees to consider. Yeah.
And then just from the drive that Councilman Hinkle and I did when we went to Ward 5 and we were along 240, the sidewalks I think are one thing, but I'm still thinking about just the pedestrian safety of someone walking along, a service road, which in a lot of driver's mind, a service road might as well be, an interstate all over again. So are there going to be any sort of protective barriers like trees or something that makes that just a little bit more of a pedestrian friendly? What are you all up to? Because before you answer, I'm sorry, under streetscapes in this document, 240 is something you all are talking about. So I'm just very interested in, I know it's Councilman Hinkle, and I'm not trying to step on any toes here. This is an area that really means a lot to me and the students I've taught.
So are you asking for that specific area or just in general for
what
service
are you
roads?
all thinking about for I-240?
For I-240, right now, it's just we want to get sidewalks, and typically what we try to do for sidewalks, because of the safety issue, is get them as far from the curb as possible. And so where we have funds, certainly we prefer to add street trees because they can provide a barrier, as you mentioned. But trying to get them off the sidewalk or off the curb as far as possible is always the goal. Oftentimes there are constraints, but it's always the goal. Sometimes the right-of-way is too narrow, and that can be problematic. But in that case, and in all cases, that's always the goal.
And I-240 is 100% developed. There's nothing left available on I-240. So it was when we changed the code to where you had to put sidewalks in 20 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever that was, there's just a lot of missing teeth. I mean, you get 200 foot of sidewalk and then 30 foot of gravel parking lot to a muddy lot that is never, ever, ever was going to get sidewalked unless we do it because it's at an apartment complex or. So I'm not so worried about trees, and I'm just worried about people in wheelchairs getting to bus stops.
Thanks.
And that, actually, I'd like to look at, I know we're in the motion to receive, but I would like to actually make a motion to add to this language, to this resolution. I'm looking at the public engagement page on page 15, and there is no information about future public engagement. It's just the engagement that has already occurred. So I would like for us to look at amending to ensure that we have in language written about future and continued engagement with Bike Walk OKC, because I think it's very important as we come online with these projects. I know by language it says advisory group and public feedback and project engagement, but to continue having resident feedback and engagement is something that I believe will need to take place, especially again for those areas that I aforementioned previously and what we're looking at coming online in the future for these particular communities.
Yeah, we can do that. That makes sense. So kind of specific to the things that we've talked about today, we can amend some, we can provide some language.
Okay.
And
I just want to ensure that that will be provided within this Bike Walk OKC plan.
Yes, we can certainly add that. I'm not sure.
I think we can do that.
Typically, we have the language.
I think we have to put together the language, and then when we come back together next time, we can add it to the resolution.
Well,
But everybody needs to see the language.
That's fine.
But then
I
just
would.
be that we defer the item to be able to write the, provide the language.
I think that would be great. I think it's important right now just to ensure that we have that transparency piece.
Okay.
That looks like
Yeah,
for,
because I think for the
our
clerk,
residents.
it's difficult to, without having specific language we would put in to note, to have that in there. So I think if we defer the item, then we can incorporate the language and then bring it back at the next meeting. If that's
I
good.
appreciate that. Thank you.
So we'll bring back the amendment that was already voted on, plus the additional.
Yeah, it would come back with the amendment that was already approved.
Okay.
Okay.
As long as it has my exhibit with the Meridian
Please
Avenue
put his
trail.
Meridian Avenue in there.
Okay. So I'm going to need a motion to defer item 11AE as amended to May 21st. The deferral passes unanimously. So we will now move to item 11AF. No executive session has been requested by staff. We can make a motion to move AF1.
Legal requested executive session, is that what you're saying?
No.
No, okay.
Did not. And the item passes. Item 11AG1 is joint resolution with OCMFA. Staff has not requested executive session. We can take a motion on A1.
I would actually like to request executive session. As I said previously, we're already going into executive session. I would just like to get just some clarification and understanding because of the nature and publicity of this particular case.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor for item 11AG2. Item fails 4-3. So item 11A8, oh no, I gotta go back. Item 11AG1 now, need a, because that failed, so we gotta go back. Yeah, okay. Like, I think I'm right. So item 11AG1 on the joint resolution, I need a motion. And the item passes 5-2. Item 11A8 is a request to enter executive session on the advice of municipal counselor. I need a motion. And the item passes 7-2, and we will handle that executive session after citizens to be heard. So item 11AI, claims recommended for approval. No executive session was requested by staff. We could take a motion.
Ward 7 is yes, Ward 8.
The item passes. Moving on to item 11, comments from council. Ward 1.
Not today, thank you.
Ward 2.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor. Wanted to say congratulations to the, any college graduate right now, but in particular the stars at Oklahoma City University. Submitted my final semester grades yesterday. I'm sure some of them loved me, some of them probably a little less so, but that's okay. I just want to thank all of my students this year for truly some engaging conversations in my world literature courses, but also in a class I had never taught before, which was a God in Film and Literature class. And it was just so impressive, the conversations that students from so many diverse backgrounds brought to texts like Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian, Persepolis, which is about a young girl growing up during the Iranian Revolution of the late 70s. It's a graphic novel, and they just really appreciated texts like that. So it was really a fascinating class. We watched the film adaptation of Noah from a few years ago, and they just had a lot of insight into the representation of religion on screen. So I just wanted to say thank you to those students. Congratulations to the graduates. Very much looking forward to having a little bit of a staycation this summer and taking a break from teaching, but not necessarily from research and writing and preparing for the fall, but very much going to take some time off there. And just, again, invite everybody on Friday to our Paseo ribbon cutting at 11 o'clock at Northwest 30th and Paseo. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Ward 4, sorry, Todd.
I'm good,
Thank you. Ward 5.
I just want to say thank you to the local firefighters, Union 157, for the invite last weekend up to the Smoking Guns deal up in Tulsa. It's a charity event where 3 of our OKC PD, Isaac Sater, Seth Maxwell, and Ryan Finlayson, represented us rather well in it's an MMA boxing match kind of thing, but the charities are great, and the event was very well done, and just thanks for the invite. And thanks to Councilman Stone for the beverages.
Ward 7.
Well, it's a good thing you have first responders there for MMA fight, for sure. I just want to say congratulations to the latest cohort of Progress OKC. They have a accelerator program for founders of different businesses, and they had 18 presenters this past week, and all of them have some wonderful businesses that need funding. So congratulations to them for being able to go through this program, and they have been able to graduate, I believe, 8 cohorts thus far. I could be mistaken, but I feel like it's 8 because this accelerator is fairly quick. So again, congratulations to them, and I know this week we have another with the OMFA, and I apologize, I cannot remember what the acronym stands for, but we also have presentations from those founders happening this week. So excited to see and hear how they can be supported as well. Also wanted to give a shout out to On Point Dance Studio. It's a local dance studio within our community. They had their presentation or dance recital, if you will. And the theme was the Wiz. So I know we have some Wiz folks in here that have seen the original Wiz. If you haven't, you probably want to. Have you seen it, the original Wiz? I know you had. But being able to see, that's okay. But being able to see it portrayed by our young people, again, it helps to tell a timeless story of dance and also the opportunity to experience the Wiz again. I also wanted to say congratulations to the class of 2024. And I know for a lot of folks that were in my cohort coming into the Masters for Regional and City Planning, quite a few of them are obtaining their degrees this semester. I'm taking 5, so I won't be done till December, but I know they have worked extremely hard, and I do my final presentation for Mark Zitzow's class tomorrow, y'all, so I'll report in 2 weeks what that grade was. I'll let y'all know. But also Langston University had their graduation this past Saturday, so the weather held out as much as it could for our graduates on Saturday, so it ended up being a better day than we had before. And I also want to say congratulations to Representative Jason Lowe. He's now a member of the Divine Nine, and we're excited to have him as a part of the organization. And I want to extend my thank you to the city of Muskogee. I traveled there on Friday. One of their council members asked me to come to be a participant, actually to be a moderator of a one-on-one conversation with Dr. Bernice King, who is the daughter of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And to tell you, I was extremely excited to be a part of that conversation is an understatement. So to actually see a King legacy was a beautiful experience. I'm very grateful for the city of Muskogee able to meet the mayor there and a couple of their council members as well. And they have a beautiful Martin Luther King Jr. Community Center, and that's where this conversation was held. So if you ever get a chance to see it, it is a beautiful facility. I am a little jealous because it's such a beautiful facility, and they have outgrown it, so they will be adding to that and looking forward to seeing how they're able to expand. Lastly, I just wanted to say thank you again to Devon Energy for their investment in USA Softball and women's sports with their generous donation and the naming rights. So now it is officially called Devon Park, and it's official because you can see it outside of the building. And I know a lot of us are extremely excited to again support what women's sports has been able to produce for not just Oklahoma, but a global stage for women's sports as well. And I told the story of just a brief story yesterday, and I'll say it again. When I was a barista at a local coffee shop, this coffee shop is on Northwest Expressway. There was a nearby hotel, and I knew where the USA Softball Stadium was. I hadn't been there at the time, but when it clicked how global this was, it was when some of those young ladies came in, and they were from international areas. One group from Korea, I know in particular, that were dressed and ready to play. So being able to experience again, that's how I can say personally, I understand the impacts of what these places can do and how we talk about bringing and promoting tourism for our communities as well. So I know that this will be a great gift, and they've already branded it very well. And we look forward to the Big 12 championship that's going to be played within this week, next week, and Boomer Sooner.
Ward 8.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I always say this, that my favorite budget meeting is when Russell Evans, our economist, comes and gives us his presentation. He takes complex materials and really puts it in a presentation that's very understandable and helpful. Russell has a new report out. It's called the 2024 Greater Oklahoma City Economic Outlook. And I'm not going to read large portions of it to you, but there are 3 important things in this report. Number 1, job growth in 2024. Russell's estimating will add nearly 14,000 new jobs, primarily in the health services and trade sector. Number 2, income and salaries are on the rise in Oklahoma City. Number 3, this is probably the most important one to me, is that we have a high concentration of young people in the metro area that should provide a labor pool support system for years to come. When I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, a lot of my friends moved to other cities to find work, and I think this is a significant moment in the history of Oklahoma City when we have a large labor youth population that will provide workers for our workforce. And so I'd encourage you to read it. You can get it on the Oklahoma City Chamber's website. It's a great report. The one thing he does say, he always has a caveat, and he says the local economy remains vulnerable due to national and global uncertainties that may disrupt economic conditions. But on the whole, the city's doing great. I enjoyed the report, and I'd encourage you to read it. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a couple of closing comments. I just want to recognize our youth council. They concluded their 2024 experience with our offices and our departments within the city, and we're just grateful for their interest in participating and getting involved with civic leaders, and hopefully they will go off to college and come back to Oklahoma City and be the next leaders in the next generation. So we had a great group of young adults, and interviews are going on right now for the next class of those next leaders, and so we're excited for that. Had an opportunity to visit the Mike Monroney FAA Aeronautical Center yesterday with the city manager. We had a great meeting with staff out there and a nice little tour. I think everybody on the council is familiar with the facility, but it was a great experience, and it's very interesting to me to learn all of the different government agencies that now hold up shop there to participate in collaborative efforts that benefit the greater good and benefit Oklahoma City with the classes that they teach and the folks that they bring in nationwide to educate our air traffic controllers, among many other positions, technicians and maintenance crew, to keep our airplanes in the air and our family and friends safe everywhere they go. So I just want to shout out to them and thank you for the opportunity and for the tour. And then the last thing, go Thunder, Thunder up. Game 1 of round 2 tonight. We're very proud of our team, and we're very excited for round 2, and let's rock it. Let's go team. So that'll close comments from council. Next up will be citizens to be heard. So I will call your name. If you'll come up to the podium, state your name and your address. You'll have 3 minutes for comments. So first up I have Vivian, is it Jaber? Miss Vivian, if you'll make sure I get your name right, I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's right. It's Vivian Jaber.
Okay, great.
So hi, my name is Vivian Jaber Velasquez. I live in Ward 1 at 6400 Northwest Expressway, 73132. I'm a Palestinian American and a mother to 2 little girls that I'm raising in Oklahoma. Yesterday was a really heavy night for your Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim constituents because we watched Israel commence the final stage of their genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. Yesterday, Israel dropped leaflets on 1.6 million Palestinians who are in Rafah, telling them to evacuate to nowhere. There is nowhere left for them to evacuate to. We watched Palestinians celebrate the news that a ceasefire agreement had been accepted by Hamas, only to be slashed shortly after, as Israel rejected that agreement and began bombing a city of tents where there are 600,000 children. We watched Israeli tanks cut off the Rafah crossing. That is the only route out of Gaza and the only route where food aid was coming into Gaza. 600,000 children are in Rafah right now, and every single one of those children is starved, facing disability, homeless, living in tents. This US-funded regime has put over 1 million Palestinians into a situation where survival is not possible. And we all have a moral obligation to stop this genocide that is unfolding in front of our eyes. There is no God, whether that's the God we believe under Islam, whether Jesus, there's no religion where God thinks it is justified to mass murder children. There is no God that would think that that is an acceptable solution to any problem in this world. We all have an obligation to leverage whatever power we have to ending this, whether that's using your voice at City Council, whether that's showing up and protesting, or whether that's you in your seats passing a ceasefire resolution and saying that enough is enough. History will remember who valued humanity and peace, and it will remember who justified and dismissed and scoffed at the Holocaust that is taking place in Gaza. The students resoundingly condemn this genocide.
30 seconds remaining.
They will be your next voters, and they will remember where you stood. We will remember, and we will never let you forget. Thank you.
Next up, Jacqueline Shelton. Ms. Shelton, state your name again and address in 3 minutes, please. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jacqueline Shelton, 2617 Southwest 63rd Place, Ward 5. It was a long night full of tornadoes and bombing, and it was horrible to wake up this morning to see the faces of people smushed between buildings by bombs that were made here. I'd like to start by acknowledging that we're gathering here on stolen indigenous land. Today, at least 39 tribal nations reside in the state of Oklahoma as a result of settler and colonial practices that were designed to assimilate Native American people. We give honor and respect to the tribal nations that were stewards of this land before our occupation of it. The irony that our state has given $64 million to a foreign government and military while you all sit here and openly state that the budget doesn't allow for this, this, and this. And I greatly appreciate all of you caring so much about the sidewalks on the south side. So can we not agree that keeping our $64 million in our tax dollars would be pretty nice? I know at least one of you has already expressed that you don't care about the lives of brown children. But you should know that there are 1.6 million innocent civilians in 64 square kilometers amount of space in Rafah currently. When I converted that, it's 24 square miles. Just for reference, Oklahoma City is 641 square miles, and the population is 694,000. These are innocent civilians stacked on top of each other, starving because the Israeli government hasn't allowed adequate amounts of food into the area for many years, and even more so now. These innocent civilians have nowhere to go as they've been pushed south to a safe zone by a government that has completely leveled every home, farm, city, hospital, and ancient religious building, including some of the oldest Christian churches. Because let's not forget that Jesus was born in Palestine. 610,000 innocent children are being bombed in Rafah with ammunition made in the USA, provided by the USA. Our American dollars make up so much of Israel's GDP that they cannot exist without our funding. We as Oklahoma City taxpayers are culpable. It's the most un-American situation that I can imagine to hold a foreign country before your own. It's not only the Israeli government that is responsible for these murderous war crimes, but the United States of America as well. Anyone who could support such egregious military efforts should be completely ashamed of themselves.
30 seconds remaining.
How dare anyone? I just urge, please consider adding your name to a growing list of cities who have passed a ceasefire resolution when the opportunity comes across your desk. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Ronnie Kirk.
My name is Ronnie Kirk. My address is 2328 North Missouri. You know, it's really strange, you know. We can't change history, but we can make it better. 130 miles from here, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Here in Oklahoma City, people had a different mindset. Back in 1990, they were still burning crosses in the yard, dragging black people down the street, burning their houses down, and burning all their businesses down. 1990, I was right here in this building here, filing for the city permits to have Juneteenth. Y'all got a copy of that. We've been doing Juneteenth every year since then. The two pictures that you see, that you have, one of those pictures, one of those signs been laying down 5 years, face down. The other one had been laying down 2 years. Me and some members of our organization, the Ward 7 Justice Seekers, and the Men Association Foundation of Oklahoma City, we picked those signs up, took them, repaired them, and painted them, hung them back up. Last 2 weeks ago, we were trying to get Clara Luper Bridge painted before the anniversary of Juneteenth. I started Juneteenth in Oklahoma. So we want to get Clara Luper's Bridge painted within the next 4 weeks. If the city's not going to paint it, members of our organization is really waiting and waiting to do it. We'd all like for the community of the whole city to see the city workers get out there and do it. If they're not going to do it, we surely going to do it for Juneteenth. We're all going to have a
30 seconds
Juneteenth
remaining.
anniversary in Moon Park for 2 days. So if the city can, go ahead and paint that bridge before the anniversary of Juneteenth. I want to say thank y'all. I love Oklahoma City. It's a beautiful place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kirk. We're concluded with citizens to be heard. We will now recess into executive session and return back after that to adjourn. We will reconvene from our executive session, and we are adjourned. Thank you.